At 2:47 a.m., Air Traffic Controller Victoria Bennett received an emergency transmission from a private aircraft. This is November-Seven-Four-Alpha-Romeo. My passenger is not who he claims to be. He has a device. If I don't land where he wants, he'll. Static. Then silence. Victoria immediately began emergency protocols. But when she searched the system for that call sign, she found something impossible. November-Seven-Four-Alpha-Romeo crashed 3 years ago in Lake Michigan. All souls on board confirmed dead, including the pilot whose voice she'd just heard. This is the story of a ghost plane, a man who died twice, and the air traffic controller, who refused to believe either death was real. My name is Victoria Bennett, but everyone calls me Tori. I'm a 29-year-old air traffic controller at Chicago O'Hare International Airport, one of the busiest airports in the world. I work the overnight shift, midnight to 8 a.m., in the tower, guiding planes through one of the most complex airspaces in North America. On any given night, I'm responsible for coordinating hundreds of aircraft movements. Lives depend on my voice staying calm, my decisions staying sharp, my focus staying absolute. I've been doing this for 7 years. I'm good at it. You have to be. One mistake, one moment of distraction, and people die. But in 7 years, I'd never received a transmission like the one that came through at 2:47 a.m. on April 3rd. The shift had been routine. Spring storms had passed through earlier, but by 2 a.m. the skies were clear. I was monitoring a dozen commercial flights in various stages of approach and departure when a frequency opened that shouldn't have existed. A private aviation channel THAT was supposed to be inactive. Mayday, Mayday, Mayday. This is November-Seven-Four-Alpha-Romeo requesting immediate assistance. The voice was strained but controlled. Male, probably 40s or 50s. Pilot training teaches you to stay calm during emergencies, and this man had that training. But underneath the calm, I heard fear. I keyed my MIC, November-Seven-Four-Alpha-Romeo, this is O'Hare Tower, go ahead with your emergency. I have a situation. My passenger, the man I picked up in Cleveland, is not who he said he was. He pulled a device. Says it's a remote detonator. Says if I don't fly to specific coordinates and land, he'll detonate explosives on board. I have maybe 4 to 5 minutes of fuel, need guidance. My training kicked in immediately. Hijacking, potential bomb, civilian aircraft. I began emergency protocols, alert supervisor, contact FBI, track aircraft location. But when I pulled up the flight database for November-Seven-Four-Alpha-Romeo, my screen showed something that made my blood run cold. Aircraft status: destroyed. Date: March 15, 2021. Location: Lake Michigan. Cause: mechanical failure, fatalities, 2. I checked again. Same result. According to every database, this plane crashed 3 years ago. The pilot, Captain Richard Hayes, age 47, was confirmed dead. Recovered body. Closed investigation. But I was hearing his voice right now. Unless. November-Seven-Four-Alpha-Romeo, confirm your tail number and pilot name. Static. Then, tail number November-Seven-Four-Alpha-Romeo. Captain Richard Hayes. And I know what you're seeing, in your system. I know it says I'm dead, but I'm very much alive, and I need help right now. I immediately patched in my supervisor, Michael Torres, and the FBI liaison who's stationed at O'Hare for exactly these situations. Agent Christina Ward arrived at my station within 4 minutes. Play it again, she said. I played the recording. She listened, face impassive, then pulled out her phone and made a call. When she hung up, she looked at me. Richard Hayes died 3 years ago. I worked that case. Private charter flight, Cleveland to Chicago, crashed into Lake Michigan 30 miles offshore. 2 bodies recovered, Hayes and his passenger, Vincent Moretti, a real estate developer. Cause of death: drowning after mechanical failure led to controlled water landing, case closed. Then who am I talking to? Someone using a dead man's call sign to create chaos. Or. She paused. Or Richard Hayes isn't dead. We tried to re-establish contact. Nothing. The frequency had gone silent. Agent Ward pulled up everything she had on the original crash. What I saw raised more questions than answers. The crash investigation had been unusually quick. Wreckage recovered, bodies identified through dental records, case closed in 3 weeks. But there were anomalies. The black box was never recovered, unusual, but not impossible in water crashes. The wreckage showed mechanical failure, but the specific part that failed had been manufactured by a company that went bankrupt 2 months after the crash. Convenient. And the most interesting detail, Vincent Moretti, the passenger who died, had withdrawn $2.3 million in cash 3 days before the flight. The money was never found. You think Hayes faked his death, I said. I think it's the only explanation that makes sense. He crashes the plane in a way that looks like mechanical failure. Makes sure the bodies are just damaged enough to require dental identification, but not so damaged it's suspicious. Takes the money. Disappears. But then why surface now? Why make contact? Agent Ward looked at the radar screen, where we were still searching for any aircraft matching the description, because something went wrong. Someone figured it out. And now he's desperate. For the next hour, we searched every radar system, every frequency, every possible flight path between Cleveland and Chicago. Nothing. November-Seven-Four-Alpha-Romeo had vanished as completely as it had 3 years ago. But this time, there was no crash site to find. No wreckage. No body. Just silence. Then, at 3:52 a.m., a small municipal airport in Gary, Indiana, 40 minutes from Chicago, reported an unscheduled landing. Single-engine Cessna. Pilot radioed in mechanical issues, requested emergency landing clearance, then disappeared immediately after touching down. Airport security found the plane abandoned. Tail number, November-Seven-Four-Alpha-Romeo. We were there in 30 minutes. The plane was a Cessna 172, exactly the type Hayes had been flying when he died. But this wasn't the crashed plane. This was a different aircraft with the same tail number painted on. Illegal, but effective if you wanted to confuse tracking systems. Inside the plane, we found a wallet, driver's license for one James Patterson, age 52, from Cleveland. But when Agent Ward ran the name, she found something interesting. James Patterson had reported his wallet stolen 3 days ago. The photo on the license didn't match Hayes's photo from 3 years ago, but facial recognition suggested it could be the same person with cosmetic alterations. More importantly, we found a phone. Burner phone, but it had recent calls. One number appeared multiple times. Agent Ward called it. A man answered. Yeah. This is FBI agent Christina Ward. To whom am I speaking? Click. He hung up. But it didn't matter. The call was enough to ping a location, a hotel in downtown Chicago, the Palmer House. FBI tactical team breached the hotel room at 5:17 a.m. Inside they found a man who identified himself as Marcus Reeves, age 44, accountant from Cleveland. He was shaking, terrified, and for good reason. He'd just spent 4 hours on a plane with a man who'd threatened to kill him. In the interrogation room, Reeves told a story that made everything click into place. 3 years ago, Marcus Reeves worked as a forensic accountant for the Cleveland Police Department. He was investigating Vincent Moretti, the real estate developer, for money laundering and fraud. Reeves had discovered that Moretti was funneling money through shell companies, evading taxes, and had connections to organized crime. But before Reeves could complete his investigation, Moretti died in a plane crash. Case closed. Except Reeves never believed it. The timing was too convenient. Moretti was about to be indicted. The money disappeared the same week. And the pilot, Richard Hayes, had worked for Moretti exclusively for 2 years. He wasn't just a charter pilot, he was Moretti's personal pilot. They were close. Too close for Hayes not to know about the illegal activity. So Reeves kept investigating. On his own time, using his own resources. And 6 months ago, he found something. Bank records, showing that an account in the Cayman Islands had been opened 4 months after the crash. The account received a wire transfer of $2.3 million, the exact amount Moretti had withdrawn. The account was in the name of Richard Morris. But the signatures on the account opening documents matched Richard Hayes' signature from his pilot's license. Reeves confronted Hayes 3 days ago. Not in person, he's not stupid. He sent an anonymous email to an address he'd traced to Hayes' new identity. The email said, "I know you're alive. I know you took the money. I'm going to the FBI." Hayes responded immediately, "Meet me in Cleveland. I'll explain everything. I'll give you the money back. Just give me a chance to make this right." Reeves, against his better judgment, agreed. He thought they'd meet in a public place. Instead, Hayes picked him up in a plane, told him they were going to Chicago to retrieve the money, and then revealed mid-flight that there was no money to return. It had been spent. And the only way Hayes could keep his new life was to ensure Reeves never made it to the FBI. "He was going to kill me," Reeves said, voice shaking. He kept saying we'd land in a remote area, that he'd take care of it, that I'd understand it was nothing personal. I pulled the emergency radio, made the Mayday call, said anything I could think of to make him abort the plan. When we landed in Gary, I ran. Just ran and didn't look back. The FBI found Richard Hayes 6 hours later, at a storage unit on the outskirts of Chicago. Inside the unit, fake IDs, cash, a gun, and travel documents, showing planned departure to Costa Rica that afternoon. He'd been preparing to disappear again. Permanently this time. When confronted, Hayes didn't deny anything. Maybe he was tired of running. Maybe he knew the game was over. Or maybe he just wanted someone to understand why he'd done it. "Vincent Moretti was my friend," Hayes said in the interrogation. "We'd known each other for 20 years. I flew him everywhere. I knew about the money laundering. I knew about the fraud. And I was terrified. Because Vincent told me that if the investigation went forward, people would die. He had partners. Dangerous partners. And if he went down, he was taking everyone with him, including me. So you faked both your deaths." It was his idea. He'd been planning it for months. He had the connections to get fake dental records, to pay off the coroner, to make sure the investigation closed quickly. He just needed a pilot he could trust. He offered me half the money. $1.15 million to disappear. Start over. Be free of all of it. And you agreed. I had debts. My ex-wife took everything in the divorce. I was drowning financially. Vincent offered me a way out. We staged the crash, made sure it looked legitimate, swam to a boat he'd positioned nearby. Split the money. He went to South America. I stayed in the States, but changed my identity. What happened to Vincent? Hayes looked down. He died. For real this time. Heart attack, 8 months after we faked the crash. I inherited his half of the money through a shell company he'd set up. I thought I was free. Until Marcus Reeves figured it out. Until he figured it out. I panicked. I couldn't go back to being dead, and I couldn't go to prison. So I thought I could scare him. Make him understand that he couldn't expose me. But the more I tried to control the situation, the more it spiraled. And when he made that emergency call, I knew it was over. Richard Hayes was charged with fraud, faking his death, insurance fraud, embezzlement, kidnapping, and attempted murder. The evidence was overwhelming. The trial lasted 3 weeks. He was found guilty on all counts and sentenced to 25 years in federal prison. Marcus Reeves received no charges for his role. He'd been a victim, not an accomplice. He testified against Hayes and provided crucial evidence that helped recover what remained of the stolen money. He still works as a forensic accountant, but now he's cautious about pursuing cases on his own. Trust takes time to rebuild. As for me, Victoria Bennett, I went back to my overnight shifts in the tower At.AM. But I listen differently now. Every transmission, every Mayday, every pilot's voice, I listen for the fear underneath the calm. Because sometimes people aren't who they say they are. Sometimes the dead come back to life. And sometimes the most important thing you can do is pay attention to what doesn't make sense. The aviation community was shaken by the case. How did a pilot and passenger fake their deaths so convincingly? The answer revealed systemic failures, rushed investigations, inadequate oversight of small aircraft crashes, loopholes in identity verification. Changes were implemented. But the bigger question remains: how many others have done the same? How many people are living under false identities after faking their deaths? I think about that sometimes, during quiet night shifts when the sky is calm and the frequencies are clear. I think about all the voices I hear, all the call signs I track, and I wonder, which ones are real? This story isn't just about a man who faked his death. It's about the desperation that drives people to impossible choices. Richard Hayes wasn't a master criminal. He was a man drowning in debt who saw an opportunity and took it. And that choice cascaded into 3 years of living in fear, constant vigilance, and ultimately, attempted murder when his secret was threatened. But it's also about the people who refuse to let mysteries stay unsolved. Marcus Reeves could have accepted the official story. He could have moved on. Instead, he kept digging because something didn't feel right. And that persistence saved his own life and brought a fugitive to justice. And it's about air traffic controllers like me, sitting in towers around the world, listening to hundreds of voices every shift. Most of the time, those voices are routine. But sometimes, someone says something that doesn't quite fit. A call sign that shouldn't exist. A pilot who should be dead. And when that happens, the only choice is to investigate, to question, to refuse to accept the easy answer. Because sometimes the ghost on the radio is real. Sometimes the impossible happens. And sometimes paying attention to what doesn't make sense is the only thing that prevents tragedy. Richard Hayes thought he could disappear twice. He was wrong. The sky remembers. The systems track. And people like Marcus Reeves and me, we listen. What do you think about this story? Share your thoughts in the comments. If you liked this video, hit that like button, subscribe for more incredible true stories, and ring the bell so you never miss an upload. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next story.